Just let you know, I'm going to be recording the meeting starting now. So Aaron Plymouth just introduced himself, and Amy, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Amy Menzor. I'm a project manager with the Department of Planning.
All right, Marilyn.
Marilyn Evans. I am one of the board of directors at the Village of 12 Trees.
Thank you. Carla.
Thank you. My mouse. I'm Carla Nelson Chambers, president for Hernwood Heights Community Association. Unfortunately, I will be stepping down from that position at the end of the year, but I'm still be involved in the association, just won't be president anymore.
Gotcha. Thank you. And India, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself one more time.
Sure. Hi, India, Secretary for the Villanova Community Association.
Thank you. And let's see, Linda.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. How is everyone this evening? My name is Linda Keith. I'm with the One God, One Thought Center as board president of the board of directors in a Liberty Road community. We're kind of working on some because of the properties being on Liberty Road down there. We're kind of getting some information as to how we can do some things down there to beautify it as well.
Great. Thank you. And Sharon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Hendricks. I represent Northwest Hospital.
Thank you. And Shirley.
Hi, I'm Shirley Supik. I'm the president of the Liberty Road Community Council. My husband and I own a safe house that was part of the Underground Railroad that is a Baltimore County landmark now. And I'm the vice president of PCASCO, which is a senior organization that aids seniors. I may not stay with the meeting all night because I really should be in bed. Ever since I got my booster shot, I have been sick, so I'm not feeling too good tonight.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to join us, and we'd love to have you as long as you're able to hold out. Danielle.
Good evening, everyone. I hope that you feel better, Shirley Supik. Greetings. My name is Danielle Winky Smith. I am the immediate president of the Patapsco Ridge Association, Homeowner Association of Woodstock, Maryland. And I'm also the chair of Black Women for Positive Change.
Thank you. And let's see, Kaylin, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone. Kaylin Thomas. I live in Lockern and am part of the Forest Garden Avenue Association.
Thank you. And Linda Dorsey Walker.
Yes, good evening. I'm Linda Dorsey Walker, longtime resident of Owings Mills and Randallstown. And I sit on the Democratic State Central Committee, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Glad to be making my contribution.
Thank you. Sheila.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Lewis. I'm president of Villanova Community Association, a Pikesville association, but our community is immediately adjacent to Liberty Road.
Great, thank you so much. And then Dawn, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, my name is Dawn Thompson. I am a representative along with Linda Keith, who's on the line as well with the One God, One Thought Center for Better Living.
Great. Thank you all so much. I hope that I will start to get the names and faces attached to each other very, very soon, but I appreciate you going through the introductions one more time for me. Okay, so we have a couple of key things on our agenda tonight. The two big things are an update on the Liberty Road Community Development Organization and then a review of the MDOT MTA field visit. And as I mentioned, for those of you who weren't on the call yet, Teddy Kralik from MDOT is going to join us for that update, but he won't be able to join us until 7 o'clock. So he'll pop up right around then. Then I'm going to do a quick update on our trash can replacement project. And we'll talk about subcommittees, any reports that the subcommittee chairs want to offer, as well as some possible next steps for those subcommittees. And then we'll wrap up hopefully right around 8, if not before then. Is there anything anybody wants to add to our agenda? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Amy to start us off with our update on the Liberty Road CDO. And Amy, if you want to give us that update, thanks.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. We've been talking about this project and when was it going to begin, when was the bid process going to be over, et cetera, for a few meetings now. And I'm excited to share that, consultant has been hired and she is among us. She's one of you. So Carla Nelson Chambers with the Nelson Ideation Group is the consultant that was hired to manage the process of forming a new community development organization in Randallstown. So I'm excited to be working with her and her subcontractor. And I want to say a few things, then hand it off to you, Carla. So the Sustainable Communities Plan for the Northwest Gateways area included building capacity as a goal in the last plan that was drafted. And creating this community development organization is really part of making that happen. And so it's both checking a box on the current plan. It's like, yay, we're doing it. It's happening. As well as obviously the hope is of the administration is that having that CDO in place will help you all and help the community achieve more and check off more of the boxes that are on the list for the plan. But I also want to emphasize that from the county's perspective, it's an important thing to note that this planning committee and the work that you all are doing is broader than what the community development organization is going to be able to do. It's going to be a brand new organization. It's going to probably start out with 1, maybe 2 staff people. And I know from personal experience, but also it's just, if you have 12 million things being thrown at you to try and accomplish, you won't get very far. And so part of the process of, so the CDO, the county would like the CDO to focus on sort of that central node of the Randallstown corridor. So, building off of where Northwest Hospital is and sort of county assets that are invested there. And so that's the immediate focus for the community development organization. It doesn't mean that at some future point in life, it can't extend farther along Liberty Road, either westward or eastward. But the immediate focus, the county would like to be in that area. And there'll be more information on that, hopefully in a matter of days. We are furiously working to get up a landing page to help tell the public about this initiative now that the consultant is on board. And that was, blessed by the council. And there will be an initial sort of kickoff meeting for the work that we, want to encourage as many people to attend as possible. And that's going to be on Tuesday, December the 6th at 6:30. So you should be hearing more about that from us, but since you're all here, that's when it's going to be. And we're still working, literally getting the, meeting link created and that kind of stuff. Because I can make a WebEx link, but apparently there's some special way that they do it for these meetings. So I'm not the one doing that. So just want to see if there's anything else to be said. I mean, we are, I'm very excited to be working with Carla. And, I think she brings a lot of good experience, to this project. And I think the fact that she has some local knowledge is also helpful in the sense that, she can appreciate, firsthand some of the challenges as well as the assets that are in the community that we can build upon. So I'm now talking too long. Carla, are you comfortable? Do you want to lay out in a general sense what these steps are?
Absolutely.
Okay,
So
great.
thank you very much, Amy, for telling the group how we're going to narrow it down. I would like to let everyone know that this will be my last meeting as a member of this committee, because the work that I'm doing for the county will require much of my time. But the fun thing is, one, the things that I've learned in this committee and the people I've got to meet will not go unused. So one, we're going to be calling upon you. Yes, India, that's why I wanted that book. So, however, Amy mentioned that it is the central node, and right now the central node of Liberty Road, so it's the Randallstown CDO, and right now it's going from the Beltway up to Greens Lane. It may narrow even more, but based on what was listed in the RFP, that's the node that we are looking at. It is also, the CDO is being put together to address the multiple concerns regarding our commercial use up and down Liberty Road and how it affects the community. So it will be comprised of community and business people, preferably within the central node, but we know there are going to be people outside of the central node within Randallstown that will be a part of it. The meeting on December 6th is to introduce the CDO and its outline that has been approved by the county council, and the plans of all the various previous plans that the various Randallstown organizations have done over the years. And it's like, how do we gather all that data together and then put it under one umbrella? So it was to introduce it to the community and then ask people who would like to be a part of what we're calling a work group. The work group will help formulate the purpose, mission, vision, value statement of the CDO, and then in turn help to determine what the bylaws and the makeup of the board of directors, picking the board of selecting the executive director, because this will be a 501c3 organization. So any of you who have ever started one, all the work that goes into doing that. And my partner, the subcontractor on this work, is an expert in setting up, maintaining 501c3s, and she actually has sits on the federal government agency panels that reviews panels for grants as it relates to, organizations requesting money. So while we happen to be somewhat the subject matter experts of putting one together, we are not the end all and be all experts of what the CDO should be comprised of. And that's where members of this organization, if you're in that central node or Randallstown area, we're specifically looking for you to consider being a part of the work group, number one. Number two, of course, getting the word out. I know that there was even discussion, well, what about the other side of the Liberty Road? And we're like, there's a large swath that we already have to deal with. And we're trying to center it around, again, the Beltway to Greens Lane, and that in itself is a lot, and it's going to be comprised of both business and community.
It's really,
Um,
I know we want to include up to Offutt Road so that we can include,
what that is, Offutt's in there. It's a, yeah, that off, because Greens Lane goes beyond Offutt.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not, when I look at the map, that's not what I saw, but.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay, so we'll, again, that's a conversation we're having with planning. When I say Greens Lane, I'm taking it, okay, off it, right, okay, I'm driving the other way. So, and actually a little bit past off it because of some of the businesses that are right past off it, mind you, the storage facilities and Wiley's Funeral Home. So, but we have yet to narrow that
You
part
see,
down.
wherever we draw a line, we're
Right, it gets
well,
to be a
this
little
other
larger.
thing right outside the line, that's stupid. So then we draw it further. So that
Yeah,
is a
I'm
challenge.
thinking about RFP versus conversation with planning, but you see where we're going because we are trying to be encompassing of that central node area and the businesses in and around it. And I'm being on the committee with Aaron's organization. I know that a lot of the issues that were brought up, especially around the business and what type of businesses and things that we talk about, those are the type of things that we would like to have addressed in the CDO. One of our wanted to also indicate that one of our tasks is to come up with a 3-year strategic plan. So it's not just putting the work group together and the work group talking about what's going to happen. It's also coming up with a 3-year strategic plan. Again, board members, because all of that has to be done prior to submitting the application to the IRS. So we do know of some organizations and businesses that we would like to reach out to speak with. And we are also looking for, people within the community that are within that central node to also participate. And then we'll go from there. So we're doing background work right now until the county exec officially sends out the press release. And then I saw your email today, Amy, and I've been gone. So responding to that in reference to getting information out up to you for the website for the county. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
no.
all
Yeah.
in flux. Yeah, Sheila, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have two. I have one question and a concern. My question is the strategic plan. I know some communities in some areas of the county have put together a master plan that is then submitted to the county council and is incorporated into the county's master plan. Now, it seems as though the communities that have this, for example, Sudbrook Park, I think Philstone, and the communities that have it, their community planning seems to be more protected because it becomes an official part of the county's plan, and you can go in and modify it. Is that going to be one of the things that's going to happen, not just a 3-year strategic plan that?
No, so this is what we're talking about, it's a business plan for the nonprofit. So the tricky thing is, and so the work that you all are doing is part of a planning committee that's actually working on more of a county plan.
But I need, but the issue is that it's not just going to be a plan that's worked and then it's completed. To have the whatever this product would be a plan that could be submitted to the county council, voted on, and incorporated as the plan for this area, so that there will be a requirement on a regular basis to revisit that plan. And if the area wants to modify it, it would be less difficult because it's part of the master plan.
I understand what you're asking, but that's not what this document is. This is sort of an internal business plan document for the nonprofit.
Okay.
So
my second concern is, again, the county appears that they can only do one thing at a time. There's 800,000 people in the county. And I don't understand why, if they can say we're going to do this for node 2, which they have designated as nodes 1, 2, and 3, if they said we're going to do this for node 2, why can't they not simultaneously do something for node 1? Again, they ignore the communities inside of the Beltway. Now, given that most of the large businesses, Northwest Hospital, Walmart, Home Depot, national chains, are in that node, and that's business. But if you look inside the Beltway, even though there are smaller businesses, it's more residential. Again, these communities are being ignored. And the problem is that when the communities are ignored, it drags down other things. It drags down the businesses. It drags down businesses that might want to come because you ignore the residential part, the residential communities. It drags other things down. And we saw this happen in Woodlawn, and we saw how far down the security mall went down before someone stepped in. And it was all because they ignored the residential areas. And I just see the pattern perpetuating itself.
I agree.
Sorry, who said they agreed?
Kaylin Thomas.
Mhm.
Danielle Smith agrees as well.
Linda, you had your hand up as well?
Yeah. It occurs to me that several months ago, I asked the question, why don't we look at having a CDO or a Main Street manager or something? And now some of us that put that idea forward months ago are excluded. So does that mean we just go away? Even though I know I was one of the people pushing for it. My church is excluded, and much of the community that I represent is excluded. So I'm trying to understand, what are the rest of us going to be doing as this is being fleshed out for only one part of Liberty Road, when last week we were talking, or the last time we met, we talked about the Liberty Road Gateway communities. And it just seems like an awful lot has already been planned before ever getting some of our input. I thought we were going to, at least when Gone was talking about it, she was talking about, don't get ahead. We're going to include you guys in the planning process and so forth. So it seems like you're pretty far down the road in making decisions.
So
and
Linda, I
Brenda-
just want to clarify, when you say excluded, you're talking about the geographic area being
She just
excluded.
said you can only participate if you live in that area. Said
No,
it
that's
twice.
not what I said. I didn't say live. It's the concentration is for that central node, and we are looking to give priority preference to those that live and have a business there, because those are the ones that are going to be affected. So I know Amy may want to comment on this, but one of the things is that when we were actually looking at boundaries, not so much Liberty Road, but how far out from Liberty Road going into neighborhoods, when we were having that conversation, is that it deals with census tract and the funds that are used to stand up this community development organization. And that's so, Amy, I don't know if you want to kind of get into that, around that, and how we
Sure. Yeah, well, that's part of the mapping. The county, prior to my joining the county, decided that they wanted to focus on the central node for this CDO project. It doesn't mean that in year 3 or 4 or 5, it couldn't extend further, but that's the current thought. Now there'll be some input processes, there'll be, I'm guessing, multiple broad public meetings. There'll be, I'm guessing, some individual meetings, and there'll be some opportunities to voice your opinion on what it should be, and if you disagree with the focus that the county has set. But the concern is that, for example, even Linda, a Main Street manager typically operates in a very small geographic area. So it'll be challenging for a very small organization with 1, possibly 2 staff to start in this first year or 2, or to do it all. But I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And it's also important to note that yes, we from everything I've heard,
Is
may be
Woodmore,
other issues
is
that
Woodmore Shopping Center included in that? Because Woodmore Shopping Center is below the Beltway, and that's an area that definitely needs some attention.
well, it doesn't mean that Baltimore County is not going to do anything about other parts of Liberty Road. It just means that if the focus for this nonprofit CDC at the moment is this central node. But I think it's also just, I want to just put it out there that, it could be that there are recreation needs and desires that the CDC should focus on. It could be that there are programs for young people that, so even the focus and scope topically of this new entity is also, to be determined.
Right.
And so I think I hear what you're saying, and I think that as we roll this out and different input meetings, hopefully folks will further share their perspectives.
If I may say for a minute, this is Danielle Winky Smith. I think one of the things that should be noticed when they talk about the areas with the communities, people are also worried about the depreciation value of their homes, being a determining factor, what types of businesses you put in the area. And then also, because that is a main factor, include them in the decision-making process.
And Danielle, you are correct. And that's why when we talk about the work group, they are a part of that quote, they are the decision makers. It's not, so let me be a little bit more clear. We are guiding the process, and we are going to be working, there's going to be, and I don't, please don't take this to I'm trying to use the right word, and I don't want to come off being stringent, but there's going to be an interviewing process to make sure that we have a variety of thought processes and people at the table, and those different voices and thought processes from community and business is the work group that will determine what is the purpose, the mission, the vision. Because it's us who live in it. So the us ends up being the CDO. So I don't want people to think that anyone is being cast aside, but we are trying to make sure that we focus on the people that are within that central node, business and community. Because you're right, Danielle, they are like, it's a family, and one relies on the other. So it's a mix, i.e. it's not going to be all business people. It's not going to be all community. We want to make sure that those who are living in and around that central node have the preference because it's affecting them. And there was conversation in reference to, well, what happens on the inside of the Beltway, because honestly, Gonier brought that up, but and she said, well, she said, I know that that's a need. But for restraints, and then Amy's shaking her head. But
I think all the county staff get that. It's just a question
of the resources, the funding, all of that. And so that's where it was decided. I'm hoping that there can be a CDO for, inside the Beltway and, some other things. So that's where we are today. And my hope is that those that are on this call would participate in the meeting of December 6th, and that some of you would find interest to want to be in this work group and or be on the board of directors. So this is it's almost like a subset of all the different things you're doing. And then you all get to determine, you and whoever else, what are we focusing on? So nothing's on the table. Well, the only thing that's on the table is that we want Randallstown to be better. That's what's on the table. What does that consist of? That's where we all come in and have input. So I'm hoping that answers some questions. I know you all have my email. I've been talking to Amy. I want to be respectful of following the county's lead to a certain degree until we have this meeting. But if you want to ask me questions, if you're interested, you can email me. I'm okay with that. And that way it just helps to speed up the process because we've already kind of been pushed back because of these dates that we have to do, but we're ready to get rolling. So I welcome everyone's input for sure.
Thank you.
For that clarification too, Carla.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Say that,
I-
Danielle.
Thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and I appreciate the question because, you know, it's important. Yeah. We've talked about that stuff before. So
Exactly. Thank
yeah.
you.
Sheila, did you have an additional question you wanted to ask?
Yes, I was going to ask, what is the impact of that organization now forming for that Node 2 on what we're doing as this group? Because just for example, the cans, we did all of Liberty Road, Node 1, 2, and 3. And for going forward with their plan, how does that impact on what anything that this group would think about? I mean, we're just about finished the trash can, project. So if we're looking for something else, does that mean what they're doing? How does that affect what we're doing?
It doesn't. I'm sorry.
And one last thing, and I'm gonna put it in again. I appreciate, and I'm not against that special group for Node 2 because it's business centered. But I do have a serious problem with no such similar effort simultaneously being proposed for Node 1. And it is an economic issue for particularly minority communities because everyone knows the middle class is built on home ownership and the value of your home. So when the property values of the residential areas are ignored, are allowed to deteriorate, we're talking about the economic inequities that minority communities face. And I think it's really important for the county to start realizing it's not just about this and that. We are beyond that. We need to go to the next level of the economic impact, the disparities of minority communities.
So I'd like to comment on that on both fronts. In reference to the trash cans and all the work that this committee is doing, we're not touching that. We're trying to form what the CDO is going to do. But when I say we, myself with planning, we had conversations about that. We are not going to step on you all's toes. If anything, I'm hoping that there's a committee representative from this group that is willing to be on the work group so that you all can, because again, I want to step off. I don't want it to be a conflict. I don't have enough time either. And so I would rather be an objective person coming into the work group to say, hey, this is what we're talking about. So we don't need to deal with it in the CDO because we already got it in the Northwest Gateway, number one. Number two, I will say as a resident of this county, I also happened to, months ago when we started, I told you all, I sit on the Economic Development Advisory Board for the county. And we had a meeting today and there was some information that they shared in reference to doing something around crime and around providing community input and putting out information. Any information that I get, whether it's on that board or as we are working on the CDO, that I believe would be a benefit to this committee and the Node 1 and the Node 3, you guys will get it. Okay. I'm one that always wants to share information. So if we're getting information about something else, I don't have a problem coming back to the committee or having the representative from your committee go back and say, hey, this is what's going on that my organization or my HOA can benefit from that we didn't know about. Let's do it. I'm not about hoarding information and resources. I'm about sharing it. So that's a Carla promise. Okay. So Sheila, I love the conversation you and I had before, and I was like, I wanted to glean from you anyway. So again, I definitely understand the need as it relates to minority communities and the value around our property. And we tend not to get the information soon enough. We get it when there's like a little bit of funding left. So I'm all about trying to share it up front. Whatever I have, you all can have. Okay. So you got that from me.
Just to close, I know we need to move on in the agenda. This is the first investment in creating a new community development corporation in Baltimore County since 2001. And so there's definitely a need for more, but it's a start in the right direction, or to start on your corridor. Let's say, put it that way. And I'm hopeful that, frankly, I want it to also incorporate the area inside the Beltway eventually. I just think there's a desire to, stay targeted and focused initially. But I thank you for your comments, and I hope you continue to be involved and help voice your opinions and help guide us in this work moving forward.
Yeah.
Sorry, Erin.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to say that with the meeting on the 6th, that will be before the next meeting of this group. So we will certainly, this is just the beginning of this. So we'll certainly invite Amy and Carla to be part of these meetings as things evolve and develop. So this will not be the last time that they are with us. Erin, I know we need to move on to our next agenda item. Is there something that you want to add?
Take about 45 seconds. This is a recommendation to Amy and Carla. As you prepare for your December 6th meeting, it may be helpful, at least for us, if we can receive prior to that meeting information that Carla has shared by way of description.
Sure.
So that everybody who comes to the meeting will have a full understanding of what to expect, so that people who live outside of this particular node will not feel excluded, will not feel cast aside, will not feel like, and the term would be stepchildren. I don't know how a stepchild feels. We're the only one to feel disenfranchised.
Right.
So the idea would be purpose, all of that, so everybody understands what you're talking about.
Yep.
And also, Carla, if you're talking about Offutt Road being the westernmost cutoff point, then I would not use Greens Lane anymore if Offutt Road is the boundary there. Well, that's a recommendation for consideration.
Yeah, just real quick, Erin. Yes, we will have more of a presentation for the 6th meeting, so that we're putting all that together so people will see the map. I mentioned Greens Lane because that was the RFP. We just had the meeting, and Amy reminded me that we went to Offutt Road. So my apologies for that. It's what was in my brain and what I had to reply to versus the next meeting. But yes, you are correct. We will have information, pretty pictures to give everybody an idea. Yes.
Carla just started on this project on Monday, so you're getting news, breaking news that yeah, we don't have maps and stuff prepared yet, but thank you.
Thank you, guys, and we'll hear lots more from you in the coming months.
And
I'm going to sign off, okay, so that you all move forward. So thank you very much, people. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, so our next agenda item is a recap of a field visit that Linda Dorsey Walker and Erin Plymouth and
Danny Blunt.
Goodbye, Sheila.
Danny Blunt.
Danny Blunt, thank you. I was reading Sheila's message as I was trying to list out the folks who were at our meeting, and myself. We met with Teddy Kralik, who's on the call with us here, as well as Liz Gordon and Lauren Campbell, both from MDOT-MTA, right? So we did we had beautiful weather for a multiple hour trip up and down Liberty Road, looking at all kinds of opportunities for improving bus stops, specifically for the opportunity to install new bus shelters and or benches. And it was a really enlightening morning for us. And I'm going to ask, I'd like to ask Erin and Linda to give their thoughts on things, but But before we do that, Teddy, if you wouldn't mind giving us a kind of an overview of what your impressions of that field visit were and where we might be able to go from here.
Sure. So again, my name is Teddy Krolick and I'm with MDOT-MTA. And my role is really to convince the folks inside of MTA that we can make better decisions, better plans if we work with people who are not in our office, right? So folks who are actually on the street, taking the service, living in the neighborhoods, that things can on the computer screen or in theory, but to actually go out and see things in person, talk with folks, is going to improve our process. And I think that's something that MTA takes seriously, as evidenced by our recent site visit. And I think long-term, that's really probably the most productive thing that can come out of these kinds of exchanges, which is that people know that there is a way inside of MTA. Instead of having to just yell and scream and complain that MTA is some sort of idiotic robot that is purposely trying to mess up people, which is something that we hear, that instead that we actually are people and people who take transit as well to work, to on the weekends. You know, if you're working at a transit agency, you're generally pro-transit, and that we do care and we do want to make things better, and that we need your help and we need your insights to do that. So, so thanks to Aaron, Danny, and Ms. Lynn for joining us, or for inviting us rather, to join you. I think that we've got lots of picture documentation. I don't have those pictures, but I think others. And I think what was helpful from, I think for both, parties really was to see what it is that MTA is evaluating when we look at individual bus stop locations, and specifically what are the criteria that we use to evaluate bus stops for additional amenities, things like trash cans, benches, shelters. And the first thing that I would say is that a lot of this is actually already available online. And so I'm going to put into the chat a link straight to the MTA website that actually goes into quite great detail about how we look at bus stops, and is going to even explain the scoring criteria that we use to determine where to put those investments. And you can imagine it's things like ridership, proximity to activity centers, obviously what kinds of kind of access there is, what the space is like. But I'm going to put that into the chat right now. Do I have access to chat actually? Yes.
You should, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Just in the corner there. So I just put in the link to the bus stop design guide, and it's, again, a very comprehensive document. So if you're interested in understanding how we also put together our informational signs, things like that, you can see that. I think the part I'm most interested in is if, again, there's a whole page that explains how to use this guide and everything. If you would like, you can kind of skip down a little bit, and eventually, again, if you click into the document, you'll see section 4 is really where you want to be focusing your attention. Again, we'll go through that a little bit, but just to say that all the information I'm giving is also available online and it's open to the public, and we want people to use it so that people understand how that we are viewing, again, this decision-making process. In terms of, I guess, an overall summary of where we're at, there are, I believe, about 45 stops along Liberty Road between 695 and Owings Mills Boulevard. And of those 45, 6 have shelters currently. As we saw when we were out there, usually those are going to be on the eastbound, or again, kind of going into the city, because those are going to have more folks boarding, more folks waiting for the bus. Typically, when people are coming out of the city, we're going to have fewer people, again, boarding at those locations, so on the westbound, and it's not as paramount sometimes to have a shelter when people are getting off the bus and immediately leaving. Of course, there should be more amenities everywhere, but as you can imagine, we do have to be really careful about how we use our very limited resources, so we do have to make these kinds of distinctions. So again, 45 stops. There are 6 current shelters There are 5 that we are currently working on, and then there's another 4 that meet the criteria that we set according to the bus stop design guide, but we need additional funding. And that funding could be forthcoming pretty soon. So looking even at, like, fiscal year 24. But one of the things we also talked about on the tour is that sometimes we are at the mercy of the supply chain, and it's sometimes really difficult to actually acquire the things that you would like to purchase. And even then, we explain sometimes the very frustrating part, which is sometimes the standing, I guess, contracts that we have as the state of Maryland with certain suppliers for, again, providing us with things like bus shelters. Sometimes those are with Canadian companies. And then when there are new US regulations saying that we can only use federal funds for things that are produced in America, it makes it very difficult to use those federal funds to then acquire the things that the state has allowed us to do, which are now, as we've learned, actually produced in Canada. Those are silly things. You guys don't have to worry too much about it, but it's to say that there are a certain number out there right now. We said 6. They're working on, and there's more that we'd like to get to in the near future. If you'd like, I can go through those individual intersections. We can talk about, again, the specific numbers that we're looking at. But we recognize, and we saw when we were out there, folks waiting for the bus, waiting to go into the city. And it's, I think, important for not only the dignity of our customers, but of course, also the comfort and just the practicality of these locations that we're providing these kinds of amenities. We did see, of course, a variety of additional things that have been placed by county efforts, sometimes some lighting, things like that. Those are other pieces that can be at bus stops. We also talked about the possibility of formally adopting certain stops. So that's a program where you actually get to kind of hang a little blade on the bus stop sign saying this stop has been adopted by the Liberty Road Merchants Association or whatever it might be, and gives people a sense that actually this is a place that is cared for and you do get recognition. Not sure that there's a whole lot more than that in terms of resource support, but there is a way to recognize, again, effort by local folks to make spaces again, more dignified, more comfortable, and better for actually accessing transit. So that was, I'd say, a fairly brief recap of some of the things that we talked about. If there are items that you'd like me to go into more detail about, like certain locations, I can easily share my screen. We can zoom around on the map, look at things. But happy to turn it over to Mr. Aaron and Ms. Linda.
Okay. Well, certainly I was glad that you all were able to come out. It was a most pleasant day, weather-wise, I must say. We started off at the far end of Liberty Road, up in the at the end of the bus line in the Owings Mills area. And we were up at the Kings Park Shopping Center. And the first thing they noticed at 10:25, what was it, 10 something in the morning, were people out there in large numbers sitting on the ground waiting for the bus. And I was glad they were able to see that, because it means that we don't just have people who are riding the bus during the rush hour, but throughout the day. There are people who work various schedules now, especially now after COVID. We don't have everyone working just 9 to 5 anymore. People have staggered work days. So you have a large number of people who are heading into the city, but we also saw when we got down to the end of the intersection with Northern Parkway, and we turned around and started coming back up Liberty Road, and we know that huge incline that people face. We also saw elderly ladies holding on to wires and light fixtures while they were waiting for the bus, because on that side of Liberty Road, there is almost nothing in terms of benches or shelters or any of that. So even though I know that Teddy has talked about they give priority to people who are going to the longer distance. Certainly, there's more lying ahead of you when you're heading from the end of Randallstown all the way into Baltimore City than if you're going up Liberty Road. Nevertheless, we have community members that have to go up to Liberty Road for shopping. We know we live in a food desert. They have to get up Liberty Road for medical appointments and for other purposes. They need to get up Liberty Road. And at that lower section of Liberty Road, a lot of the people are more vulnerable because the setbacks are very narrow. In fact, as all of us know, there's a portion where there's even a wall there. So when the snow gets moved and the ice gets moved, and you're trying to come up that very steep portion of the road or hold on for dear life, you know, that shouldn't be necessary. There should be a place to sit down, to make your commute from one place to the other, even as a pedestrian, safer, easier, and as you're waiting for the buses, you should be in a safe environment when you're doing it. Yes, we need more light fixtures, but we also talked about some crossroads. I asked them if there's possibility of looking at some of the crossroads where cross-intersecting buses run as well. We know that at Liberty and Old Court, there are buses that run. And when we were at that intersection, I said, see, as you can see, there are people who have to wait for the bus, and there's no amenity for the people coming from the hospital going down that road, or Old Court Road. So there were no amenities on that crossroad where you have buses traveling up and down Old Court to crossing Liberty. There similarly at Rolling Road and Liberty, and similarly at Milford Mill and Liberty. The bus that runs on Rolling Road and Liberty goes all the way out to Catonsville Community College and UMBC. So we want to make sure that we have not just, previously when we were talking about trash cans and people asked, do we only have to talk about trash cans immediately on Liberty Road? What about the side streets that run directly into Liberty Road? And I'm going to ask, what about those side streets that run into Liberty Road as well for the shelters?
Hey, Ms. Walker, I want to just clarify, I said that obviously more folks are going to be coming into the city, but that means that there's going to be more shelters that are going to be going on those southbound or eastbound locations, but that's not everywhere. So actually, that Liberty and, sorry, let me call it up here, at Liberty and Old Court northbound, actually, that's a shelter that we're currently working on right now. And I think as I mentioned, there's kind of the ones we're working on, the ones we'd like to work on next. And next, we'd like to work at Milford Mill northbound, also at Liberty, I guess at Milford Mill Road and Liberty Road, looking at both northbound, southbound. So there's.
And the reason I brought up and asked you all to go over to Rolling Road, when we circled around, we didn't make a stop over there near Scotts Branch Elementary School. But the reason we drove past there, and I asked, and I don't know if you all looked, but I asked, Daphne to please look out to see the huge number of apartment complexes, many of them occupied by very low income people. Almost everyone at Scotts Branch Elementary School, they have almost 100% free and reduced lunch population at that school. Many of them don't have cars, do have babies and baby carriages, and they have long waits ahead of them because they totally rely on public transportation, many of them. So that's why I said those three intersections.
Yeah, and again, Rolling Road is one that we're working on southbound right now. So again, I'm happy to go through the ones that we are working on and the ones again that are next in the queue. But we really are, again, even like the Marriottsville one we were just talking about at the very beginning when we saw the folks sitting, like that's the one that we're working on.
Yeah, that might be really helpful for the group to hear. Just we looked at a lot of different options, and it was really encouraging to hear that some of the things that our group had identified as areas of need were already on your radar screen. So maybe you could run through the intersections that.
I'm happy to share my screen and talk through it, or if somebody else wants to share the screen so it's easier, because it's a little hard sometimes to talk and kind of move things around. So whatever that division of label, I'm happy to oblige.
I can run through the. What format do you have your?
How about this? I'll handle it. It's okay.
Okay.
Right now, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. Yep.
Okay. So you can see this is Marriottsville Road right here, Marriottsville and Liberty. And as I was saying, right now we're southbound. So that is one that is in production, and again, does take engineering, making sure that there's ADA access. I think that was consistently actually getting a sense of how many feet do we have at each of these locations for folks to be able to actually get onto the bus. There were some places you might recall where we actually saw that helpful trash can, unfortunately, was direct, access to the bus. Like it was on the stretch of sidewalk that led you from the bus stop towards the street, and it was right in your way. So sometimes.
Can you speak to how many square feet that you shared with us of space is typically required, and also for wheelchair access coming down off the bus that you were highlighting?
I think, actually, I have to say, I'm not the technical expert on the exact number of feet. We can look in the bus stop design guide to answer that more accurately. I can give you what I think is the answer, but I'm not actually the person who can tell you that with definitive clarity, unless you guys have better notes on that.
I know that when Miss Gordon was there, she was talking about like a 10-foot area.
So that's what I can say. I think it's going to be 10 feet, but I want to make sure I give you the right actual.
And so one of the things that you noticed was that there was an access for a bus to stop and allow a wheelchair to access it. But the problem is when the county came in and put in the trash cans, they put it in sort of almost the middle of the 10-foot access way. So one of the things we talked about is if we move forward with purchasing all these new trash cans, that we work carefully with MTA to make sure that it's put in the right place. Now that thing was made deep into we would have to have it removed and not, when a new one is put in, not put in the same place that the old one was standing, put it in a different location, especially if there's now going to be a bench or a shelter there. And I think she talked about 2 different types of shelters also.
Yeah. So thank you. That's very helpful. And in general, our engineers prefer the simple shelters that have fewer moving parts and are easy to maintain. I'm usually the one who's pushing for more interesting designs that, again, more, I think, accurately reflect kind of the local context. Some of those custom artistic bus shelters you might have seen in some parts of Baltimore. There's one, for example, in Highlandtown that spells out BUS in kind of oversized letters. There's one also in Highlandtown that's got like a thumbtack. Those are things that actually we're continuing to work on, but those do take significant funds to do. In general, that's kind of in like the $50,000 to $100,000 range for those kind of custom shelters. And again, happy to work with folks to acquire the funding. I think it's a worthwhile use.
What's that number again for those higher end ones?
Yeah, generally between $50,000 and $100,000. And if you'd like,
per shelter.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this, show you. It's a pretty famous one. Folks, go still see my screen, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I see this here.
Mm-hmm.
This is one where again it spells out BUS. Then there's also one across the street, nearby, not exactly across the street, where it's got a thumbtack, says "Estamos aquí," because it's a large Spanish-speaking population in the area. Kind of see different views.
And those are in Baltimore?
These are in Baltimore. I can give you the exact address. Yeah.
You said Highlandtown?
Yeah, Highlandtown. So this is southeast Baltimore. Would you like me to show you on a map?
I'm sure we can look it up.
Okay. Well, this is at the Creative Alliance. This is the BUS. You can see actually here's the Creative Alliance signs right here.
I like it. It looks very creative, very
Yeah,
new.
it's actually a pretty cool project. So the way it worked was that it was actually a collaboration between the city and the European Union, actually. Basically, there was a kind of cross-cultural initiative to bring designers from Europe to Baltimore and work on public space projects, and to also actually bring some Baltimore folks to Europe to observe what is possible. And then they also provided funding for the project itself. So that's actually a pretty cool one. Right now, I'm also working with the Central Baltimore Partnership that works in kind of, as you can imagine, Central Baltimore. So kind of like imagine North Avenue and Charles Street area. They also are leveraging some state funds that they have to work with us to try to do like an artist competition, an RFP, where they'd be sending out advertisements to or solicit artists to submit their proposals and then to eventually actually build something. Again, these are difficult because basically MTA is going to say, you can do it, sure, but first of all, we don't own the sidewalk, so you're going to have to make sure you work with your local jurisdiction to actually get the permit to do that. And then second, you're going to be on the hook for all maintenance. You're going to be liable for that. So do you have certificate of insurance, all that kind of stuff? Because you can put it there, but we're not going to be able to fix it. So those are some of the things that do come up. But again, I think these are great. And as I said, I think this reflects the local character. I think it gives actually the impression that like the bus is important. It's worth spending some time looking at and thinking about and acknowledging. So again, you're talking to transit fans here.
What is the non-fancy version of a shelter? Just the ones that we saw on Liberty Road.
Like a non-exciting shelter? You want to see like a
I love those because last year we spent a lot of time talking about how to improve the image, the physical image of Liberty Road, and put planters and artwork right up near the edge of Liberty Road so that people could enjoy the artwork and give Randallstown some character. But how much is just a regular bus shelter?
You know, again, it does depend a lot on like what additional work has to be done on the site itself, right? Like making it ADA accessible, getting the grading right. So it's difficult to give you just like an actual number, but I would say that I would rather, again, give a specific number that actually corresponded to like an area beside without giving you, again, better to give you no information than bad information. So I'll say it'll be cheaper than this, but they're still pretty expensive because they have to withstand the elements. They have to, be able to, again, be really, really sturdy, and they are generally going to be, as you can tell, made in America if they're using federal funds.
So Teddy, this is Danielle. Is any of the money that was earmarked under the infrastructure bill and that's given to our prospective states, could any of this be included?
Yes, yeah, and so I think that absolutely is going towards bus shelters, and not necessarily this style of bus shelter, more traditional, more kind of utilitarian ones, but absolutely that's shelters are a really good example of what is like a ready to build, what is a shovel ready project, right? And we know that there's roughly about 4,000 bus stops that MTA serves, 4,000. So you have to make slow progress towards making not only actually ADA accessibility for all of them is a major issue, and that's something we're working towards, but also have shelters, other amenities.
Did you say there were 4,000 shelters or bus stops?
Bus stops. I wish there were 4,000 shelters. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I was going to say, where's our share? The thumbtack design that you had, that you said that's in the Latino community section.
It's just a few blocks from. It's like very close to the BUS.
Did they ask for it? Did they lobby for it? Who came up with the idea of that big red thumbtack that's like living artwork?
You know, I'd be
marked on-
happy to connect you with the Southeast CDC. That's the Southeast Community Development Corporation, because they're really the folks who are responsible for these projects. And again, I have good relations with them. We work with them. Actually, the meeting that I just came from, I was with one of the folks from Southeast CDC. So I'd be happy to connect you guys.
Thank you. So I know I want to be conscious of our time here. I think we've mentioned a couple of places that you're looking at already. So Marrittsville Road.
Yeah, so here I'm showing Old Court northbound is also one that we're currently working on. So that's one right here. So that's actually going, depending on how you're looking at it, northbound or westbound. And then at Rolling Road, southbound. So
Hi, Danielle.
so here we're looking again. Let's see, 6977 is the actual. It's 5101. Say, oh, there it is. It was just the the text was missing. I was like, where is it? Where is it? There we go. So this one here, you can actually see the screen view. Church here. You know, yeah, that's that. It's hard to tell if that's exactly, but looks like you can see the kind of sidewalk clearing. Going through Marrittsville, Old Court, Road. Next one is Liberty Road and Milford Mill. So give me 1 second. Just a few bucks south. And again, this one is going to be southbound. So going into the city. So it'll be this one right here. You can see, actually, if you want, we can get into the street view. You can see here how it really is very exposed. So this shelter is needed. Now look, some old campaign signs. You guys can, I know we had fun. We were out there like the day before the election, right? So lots of you can tell the date of, I don't know, I think ooh, that's a Republican one, so I'll read it for you, Miss Linda. But okay, so we just did Liberty Road and Milford Mill, southbound. And the last one, it looks like, is Liberty Road and Savoy. Saying that right? Savoy?
Yes, Savoy.
I gotta say, I've not been to that specific one.
So let's say a community group said, well, you may not be able to put one of those fancy shelters everywhere, but let's say you really wanted to draw attention to Randallstown and say that.
I would love to work with you.
Remember the cow project that they had down at the Inner Harbor in downtown Baltimore, where they challenged artists to come up with different cows designs?
Well, remember, it was cows. There's also fish. Remember the fish?
And the fish project.
And crabs.
Yes.
So I think the way that it would work is that I'd absolutely love to collaborate, provide support, right? But it would require finding some additional funding. So that means that maybe there's a local bank or there's a local, nonprofit that wants to support community art projects. And you could get a letter of support from MTA saying, we support this project. We're happy to provide this space. You'd have to get the county also, of course, to sign on because they own the actual sidewalk. I would be happy, again, as I said, I'm working with other groups to do that. And what I'm actually trying to do is figure out, there's so many groups, again, like yours, that are interested in this. There's so much demand. The real issue, more than anything, besides funding, is that there's actually not that many artists who have the skill and the experience to do the fabrication. And so that's actually the holdup, if that makes sense. So developing a pipeline of local artists who can do this kind of industrial design and installation, that's sometimes the bigger issue. And I would love to see a way for us to develop, again, that kind of capacity in our artistic community, as well as I think the interest in the funding community to support that. It is something I've talked about with the Baltimore Office of Promotion of the Arts a while back, but if you're following Baltimore politics, you know that BOPA is going through lots of things, so I can't say that I've got too many updates on that.
I would love to see a row on both sides of Liberty Road, even if it was only like 6 or 8 of them, of like on a top of each shelter, Eubie Blake playing his piano, Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, and talk to the engineers about that, but yes, I'm with you.
Because we talked about trying to talk about a lot of the African American history that's in our community, even Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, or Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, so here actually, I just zoomed into the street view. You can see this looks like a very recently made accessible stop. Very nice curb ramp. You do not always see ones this high quality, and actually quite a large kind of boarding zone. This hydrant in a bit of an unfortunate location, but nothing you can do about that. But see where it's got all the elements: trash can, shelter, bus stop sign. It's missing the shelter. Again, we're working on. So. That wraps up the 5 that we are currently working on. As I said, there's an additional 4 that are next in the queue. And if you'd like, we can go through those. If you'd like, we can spend a little bit more time looking at the bus stop design guide. And you can see, for example, the section that I was talking about before. So this is, here you can see it's just loading. It's a big file.
Well, while we're waiting, is there anything that this committee could be thinking about, could be doing to support the next steps? So it sounds like you've got some things that are already under development, a few things that maybe we're looking for funding for. And certainly seems to be some interest in exploring maybe some design ideas that are geared towards calling out the uniqueness of Randallstown as part of this work. What are some things that you would see as sort of the next steps that this committee could really help to support you in?
Yeah, well, I think the first I mentioned is that the Adopt a Stop program, I think, is a nice one, and that's something that there is, a real process to go through. It's not very difficult, but a way to acknowledge the interest that community members have in supporting, again, specific bus stop locations. I think second is letting us know, just in general, again, what you're observing. Like, those are helpful observations to tell us, hey, this bus shelter is actually broken, or that there's a lot of people who are here that are having trouble getting to the shelter because they're coming with a mobility device and there's not proper curb access. Those are things that, again, are useful. We should be on top of that, but we also need to make sure that we're open to receiving that kind of information. I think when it comes to figuring out, again, which shelters are in the queue, again, I think that's something that is helpful for us to let you guys know, so that you can think about, maybe are there specific aspects that would be helpful for us to know, right? Whether it's making sure that we're talking with the school community, or if there's a senior center nearby. As you can see here, I'm actually just kind of scrolling through the specific scoring criteria that I mentioned, where we talk about, we look at how many people are waiting, how long are they waiting, and specifically, you'll see here, we're looking at Title VI community, we're looking at areas near human service facilities, and you might be interested, we actually give some bonus if it's an operator relief point. So that means it's a place where operators are getting off and on the bus and switching out their kind of piece of work. They actually give an example here, which is kind of cool, where they look at on Baltimore locations, but how things get scored. And you can again, see how they vary. And again, these are the same things that we would look at for the Liberty Road places. I think this is helpful to share this with people who have these kinds of questions. This document, I think, is the next step. And you also, as Ms. Linda knows, has access to our emails to let us know, what's going on in the area, because we do have a limited staff. And as I said, we do have 4,000 bus stops. It's not easy, but at a basic level, you guys know, it comes down to funding. And whenever there are these kinds of difficult resource allocation questions, the best thing, and this is like a really honest answer, is to talk to your elected officials, right? MTA doesn't set its budget. MTA is an arm of the state of Maryland. Secretary of Transportation is, a cabinet member appointed by the governor. And I think that MTA does the best it can with the dollars that are allocated to it. They're ones that we apply for a lot of competitive federal funding, but still are certainly opportunities for the state to provide support, and we want to do that with that money. So it never hurts to tell your elected officials that you think MTA needs more money, and it's important that we serve, again, folks who are working long shifts, people who are working at Title I schools. Those are very valid reasons.
Excellent.
Are you going to share the names of the other 4 places you're considering?
Sure, yeah. So again, these are kind of next in the queue. So we're looking at Liberty Road in Milford Mill northbound. We are looking at Liberty Road and Offutt Road southbound. Liberty Road and Foxcliff Court southbound. And it looks like that's also a mid-block location. And then Milford Mill and Liberty northbound. As I said, we're working on Liberty Road and Milford southbounds right now.
How is, what's the difference between stops 7094 and 11? Oh, the last one is actually on Milford Mill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you share that list with us?
Sure.
I mean, just email it to us.
Yeah, if you could send that to us, we can include it in our meeting recap. That would be really helpful. Aaron, did you want to add something?
Wanted to throw out some information related to the last 2 reference stops. That's going to be very important because there's a new supermarket that's going to be opening up sometime next year. And I expect that to be a highly frequented area because a lot of people, this is satisfying one of the needs of this place being a food desert. So based on the fact that the county executive and the chairperson of the county council, Julian Jones, announced probably a week or so ago about the coming of that particular supermarket. This is quite timely. So by the time this project is done, I expect a lot of folk who are going to be riding the bus westbound coming from down Northern Parkway and eastbound coming from Marrittsville to go to that store there. So this is quite timely. Thank you. Also, while I have the microphone, I too would like to share the kind words of appreciation to Teddy, to Liz, and to Lauren. It was a pleasure spending almost 3.5 hours with you guys. And doing it from the standpoint of not a passenger, but a prospective bus rider, and looking at it from a different perspective gave me a greater appreciation for what it is like for people of all ages who are aware of their environment. When I'm saying that, when the children who are in strollers aren't necessarily cognizant about what's going on, but certainly the need is really, really highly demonstrated. And our first stop, as I understand, we all gathered at McDonald's right out near church, out near the Arlington Baptist.
Colonial Baptist.
Our first stop was at Marysville, where the Dunkin' Donuts and Subway station, and then we began to make our way east. And it was quite revelating and revealing, rather. And more importantly, we know that we met Daphne at our last meeting, and we had a chance. She was a passenger in our vehicle, and had a chance to really get to know Daphne and her style and how aware and concerned that she was then and still is. But for me, though, it was really, really great. And that was Monday last week, November the 7th in the morning. Beautiful weather, great time. But again, the three folk who came from the state were highly professional and showed a lot of compassion and care for that job. And they pointed out some things that we didn't know about. And I learned an awful lot. So thank you very much. Again, thank you so much for everyone who participated and those folks who are listening tonight. I appreciate how.
Thank you, Aaron. I want to add another thing, which is that it's actually these kinds of forums that are also really helpful, right? So when Aaron talks about a new supermarket coming on, and then the community planner, Daphne, is able to let us know, hey guys, MTA, did you know there's these new site development plans? That allows us to do a better job in being proactive as opposed to reactive. So I think already that kind of virtuous, cycle is emerging, and that's really helpful. So I appreciate that too.
Even up near Brenbrook.
At its best. It was collaboration at its best, in my opinion.
Thanks, Aaron.
Even up there in Brenbrook, where people have to come to and from Walmart with packages of lots of things in their arms, that are relying on, bus transportation. They need it going back and forth because they get a lot of things. But one thing I know that you all were able to appreciate is how much, because we had to get out the car a lot of times, how much of Baltimore County still does not have sidewalks. So much of Baltimore County, running up to Liberty Road, does not have sidewalks leading up to Liberty Road. And so that's another thing we want to at some point look at, because you have to put these things on a real sidewalk.
Good point. All right, folks, this has been a really great discussion, and Teddy, thank you so much for your time the other week, as well as your time tonight sharing some updates with us. We'll be in contact again, I'm sure, as things continue to move forward with some of the sites that you're looking at, as well as what I'd like to suggest is that this group revisit the topic of some of these potential sites, and maybe are there other things that we'd like to explore in terms of some of these next steps that Teddy has outlined for us. So we can just kind of keep this conversation going. But I do want to respect everybody's time. We're closing in on 8 o'clock here and folks are beginning to drop off. So, so how about if we put this on our agenda for our next meeting as well, to kind of circle back around after everybody's had a bit of time to think about it. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Daphne?
All right.
Daphne?
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to congratulate you on a job well done for your first time meeting with us as our planner. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your starting on time and also respecting time.
Yes, well, thank you. So I think I still have 1 more minute, and I do want to give you a very quick update. Good news, I hope. We've been in contact with the trash can with both the fabricator and the installer on the trash can replacement project. And we actually may be seeing those much earlier than we thought. So the installer really only needs about a week's leeway time to get things scheduled. And so all we're waiting on is the fabricator to ship the new cans over here. I was hoping that I'd have an update from him to share with you guys tonight, but he's not finished what he needs to do in order to get a good estimated time of delivery. So, but we could be looking at something closer to the January, February time, which is a few months earlier than what we thought. So, yay. And I will be sure to keep you guys informed as I get more information. All right. So the last thing I wanted to do, I'm sorry, was, did somebody want to say something? Okay. The last thing I want to do just very quickly is get touch base with you guys on our next meeting. So normally we would meet the second Wednesday of the month, which I believe in December is the 14th. That day is free for me, but I know a lot of people have a lot of conflicts in December. So how about if when I send the meeting summary around to you guys, I'll ask you if you all are good to meet in December, or if we want for any reason to postpone the December meeting till January. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you. Happy
Yes, thank you.
Thanksgiving to you too.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll follow up with a meeting summary before too long here.
Yep, and Daphne, I'll be able to send you the list.
Night.
Sound good.
Good.
Night.
Bye.
Night.
And Teddy, I'll send you some of those photos I took.
Good. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.